All right, welcome everybody. We're doing something a little bit differently tonight for this Perceptive podcast here on Game Wisdom. We're going to be doing a live play followed by the interview of a game that's currently on Kickstarter. This is Lightbreak, and it's a game that's going to be it's a story-driven musical game. And joining me for both this play as well as for the Q&A session are several members of the team from Deve Interactive. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves as we have a full house in the chat tonight. Uh-uh.
Hi, I'm Adam.
There.
I'm the lead programmer for Lightbreak.
Hi, I'm Joshua. I am general programmer for Lightbreak.
Hi, I'm Aruba, the technical artist and also organizer.
Hey everyone, this is Sam. I'm a team lead and creative director for Lightbreak.
All right.
And Saoirse is also here. I'm the composer for the game.
It's great to have everyone on. I think this may be the record for most people we're going to interview at one time or play here. So it's great to have everybody on tonight. And for those of you watching this, either live or recorded, the Kickstarter for Lightbreak is currently in the final few days. In the recorded version, there will be a link to the Kickstarter in the description down below. But like I said, I do wish everyone here the best of luck in the home stretch.
Thank you.
So, before we start playing this, what are we about to see with Lightbreak? What is the Kickstarter pitch here for everyone watching?
I think that's a pitch our team leader should make, right?
Okay. Alright, so the idea with Lightbreak kind of started in Global Game Jam. We wanted to make a music-centered game.
Mhm.
And our prototype kind of went on and won a couple of awards, so we decided to expand it into the version that you are about to see today. So the story of Lightbreak kind of comes down from the Persian mythology, as well as some inspirations from music albums that are complete stories in and of itself.
Mhm.
We were some of the big inspirations for Lightbreak was the albums of Dream Theater, if you can believe it, and the works of the Persian composer Nasser Cheshmazar, which you'll see some of references to his work later on in the full game.
Okay.
So the game is about this adventurous girl who wants to leave her hometown and go on adventures. And the demo that you will see tonight kind of is a prologue to the story.
Mhm.
And the main game story begins right after the events of the demo.
Okay. And how long has your team been working on Lightbreak for?
About 8 months.
Okay. Great. So I do have some questions about the game of development, but we'll save that for the Q&A session after we're done with the demo. So for the people watching this, is this demo available for anyone who checks out the Kickstarter page, or is this just kind of a limited demo for press and such?
The demo is available for free on our itch.io.
Okay.
You can also download it from our Kickstarter page. There's a big button there. It takes you to our itch.io page.
Alright, sounds good. So, let's get the demo started now then. And for those of you who are my regulars watching this, you know how bad I am at musically based games, so I'm glad we have the dev team on to provide some backup here for me. So, let's get things started here. Oh. Highlight notes can be selected by clicking on them. So what are we doing here? We're trying to match these two. We're trying to match this note.
Yeah, so the black cube thing that you're seeing is a magical instrument that the main character of the game is playing. And the main objective of the puzzles is to kind of match what the character is hearing in their head onto the instrument and play it the right way.
Okay. Close the music audio. Yeah, so I can tell, like, just by playing this really quickly that I am going to be absolutely terrible at this game. So I hope everyone watching this, please don't hold it too much against me here. Let's see. So the visual cues, like kind of like this line, does that provide any hints for kind of solving this?
Yes, that is our direction indicator, so that shows the direction of the notes.
Okay, so it's going from right to left then. And I can tell, like everyone watching this right now, that most likely I will be solving these puzzles with dumb luck. We'll see. So here we have kind of the reward. We have a little bit of the story here. So what kind of attracted you to going for this kind of like musical story design?
So we have seen a lot of music-based games who are just not very good games. And they've been focusing mostly on rhythm, and we thought that there might be another way to do this better.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of took this puzzle approach.
Ooh. Rotate layers and let go tune. Ooh. Well, I think I did. Hopefully, I did that part right. Yeah, and like music-based games have always been very tricky in terms of, you know, what you want to do out them. You have stuff like, you know, the Guitar Hero, very much, you know, repeat what's on the screen kind of design. And normally, like, musical-based puzzles are kind of saved for, you know, like an adventure game, or it's like the secondary aspect of a design.
Yeah. You know, in this kind of approach, we wanted to encourage people to hear, to listen,
Mm-hmm.
as well as we have been trying to give them a visual feedback of what the audio that they're creating is going to look like. By the way, this works a lot better if you look at it from the side, not from the top.
Oop.
Just trying to get
like,
a better angle.
Like this?
Yes. So like, if you pull it down, the other side will come up.
Like in a way that they're all in a row on
Okay.
top, kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I think that kind of
Yeah,
did.
that's why you're not getting a good angle on it.
Yeah. The nightmare of rotating. There we go. Well, that did. I think that was right, but not how they should be aligned. Are they all? Oh, so it's just all going from left to right like this, or
Yeah,
right to left?
So the idea
Oh.
with the tuning is that later on, you're going to actually tune this.
Oh
Meaning you
no.
have to listen and and figure out which tone is it that the character is hearing. Kind of like actually tuning an actual instrument when you rotate the things on your guitar.
Okay, I can tell you I am not musically accustomed at all, so this is definitely all new to me. So I got 2 of them right. I'm not sure why this one is not doing its job. So each kind of puzzle is just you kind of tuning and then having to actually play.
Yes.
Alright. Any hints about why this guy is not lining up?
Just rotate it into different angles and let go.
Oh, there we go.
And there you go.
So in terms of kind of like the length of the game, what are you aiming for? Like in terms of like how long the overall experience is going to be?
That really depends. We have a very long and detailed story planned, and new mechanics to come in for the full game, and that's kind of all depends on success of the success of the Kickstarter. But this demo is approximately 20 minutes.
Okay. Now, didn't want to click on that. Now, one thing just from like a UI standpoint, why can you only like rotate the cube like clicking on these specific points? Because it seems like I'm having a little bit of trouble like getting back there to properly orient. Versus just being able to click on any part of the cube and manipulate.
Well, that is it didn't kind of work with our because users would get a lot of accidental clicks when they're trying to click on the nodes themselves.
Everything seems to be tuned.
Yes, but the order is not correct.
Uh-oh. Here. I actually solved it by ear. That's amazing for me. Alright, and then we have to do it over here. So you're going for very much a kind of like diegetic kind of interface, or kind of like diegetic viewpoint of looking at it. I guess, did you, like in the finished version or like going forward, will it still look like this, or will there be any changes to like the aesthetics of this cube?
So initially, our plan was to have this cube not be a cube. We kind of forced our hand to use this cube mesh for the demo version. There can be certainly changes in the aesthetics, but the signature of the game will be the same.
Okay. And I'm doing this a lot better than I thought. Pony and Chad saying the Horror Cube. I was just thinking of the cube from Hellraiser. Trying to solve that. Alright, so that is doing its loading here. Uh-oh. Now it's getting a little bit more advanced. And one question from Chad that I think is a good thing to answer while I'm kind of thumbing through this myself right now. Will there be any kind of tutorial, I'm sorry, not any tutorials, but like any like visual help, tips, you know, in case somebody does get hopelessly stuck like yours truly?
Unfortunately, in this demo, there isn't. But in a lot of the playtests that we ran, we encountered a lot of people who found it very challenging to solve the oral puzzles, which inclines us to do something like that, but not too much, because as a game designer, I don't like hand-holding a lot. I think the game should have a fair degree of challenge.
Yeah, I think one thing from kind of like a little hint or a little tip would be maybe like for this part, like just having it oriented in the best position, because I can see people like myself clicking on like the very first camera angle and then wondering, why can't I, properly get these things into alignment?
So the assumption with the freeform puzzle was that sometimes people find one piece of the puzzle to be somewhat difficult for them when they first start the game. So with this system where you can choose which side of the cube to work on, you set the difficulty for yourself. As you can see, like on this particular vignette, there is a side with five notes, there's a side with 3, and a side with 2. So that kind of has like a raising difficulty level.
Yeah. Let's see. Why does that sound not like it? Did I tune it already, or?
I'm gonna go ahead and answer some of the questions in the chat. What's the goal? What do parts do? What do the parts do, and how do we get there? So, the what you see is what we call a vignette, and basically what's happening in the story is that the main character Ava, she's playing this magical instrument that will visualize her emotions. And she's trying to communicate her journey to her mom, which is blind; she can't see. And after you play the instrument and render your music correctly, anyone who is listening to the music of the instrument will be magically affected by it and can see the story in their mind. And the music that you hear, composed by our great artist Saoirse, has a lot of the elements that you hear in the puzzles in it. So it kind of sounds like the instrument is expanding your creativity and making an extended version of what you create.
And for those of you who didn't notice, like you see that kind of streak going on the cube, that's the order in the notes that are playing. So you have to kind of use that as the guide for when you're orienting things.
Yeah, somebody's saying, imagine that in VR. This is actually one of our main inspirations to bring this game to Kickstarter was to be able to afford a VR version. So the VR version is one of our first stretch goals.
And the lawnmower man thing, that's a good one, Mojo. Alright, this one I have a feeling I am going to need some help on.
I think I'm talking too much. Aruba, do you want to take over?
Okay, I can help you with the with the orientation of this.
Yeah, because I am not getting it here. I think that is right. I know it's going from low to like kind of high.
Okay, the one that you are on is the last.
Okay. Ooh.
I think that was correct.
Oh, no. I have kind of a delay here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I know, Mojo, we're too old. Okay, so I got the last one right. I think another thing that's a little like unintuitive is that when I'm clicking on the cube, I want to click on the next one to hear it. It's automatically switching it. Maybe.
The way to do that is just double clicking. It will select and deselect.
Okay.
And it allows you to hear what the note is.
Okay.
So I think the first one from the left should be in the middle.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Almost had it.
There you go.
Yeah, so you can definitely tell, like, I think the chat is as well, like, there's a lot of, the visual and the audio art that's going into this game, and I guess, what was the inspiration for the music, for coming up with, like, the music that would be, like, fed into these puzzles?
That's Susha.
Sure, I'll speak a little bit to that. If you hear any, we just brought home a new puppy yesterday, so if you hear yips, that's her. I apologize.
That's alright.
So I admittedly took a lot of inspiration from the game Monument Valley, and I did want the audio to support the story and these lush, ethereal visuals of the game. As you play through the game, you'll notice, or you may, I'll point this out, each character is sort of associated with a different instrument. So, for example, when you see Ava on screen, you'll usually hear a vibraphone, kind of, sort of like a younger, bell-like sound. The mother, I usually used a piano sound for her. The Sorcerer King has this like more aggressive synth sound to sort of indicate his role in the story. And then I really wanted all of the tones and the puzzles to sound harmonious with the background loops. So as you play, my hope is that it feels like you're making music even as you're solving these puzzles.
Now, from a mechanics standpoint, we've been mainly dealing with tuning the instrument and then matching the notes. Are there any additional mechanics that will become apparent later in the game?
Yes, but I don't want to reveal too much.
Okay. That's alright.
But I'll just give you a hint. So the saws can recreate things. So memories are not the only things you can recreate with it.
Okay. And for your question, Pony, basically, yeah, we first have to tune it. That's what all these little sections are for. And then we go for the note matching itself. Now, can you do the note matching without tuning the instrument, or will it just not be possible to kind of like pick it up?
Yeah, before you can match them, they need to be tuned.
Okay. Yeah, so you have to...
wanna... Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just thinking about the mechanics. We could talk a little bit about the creative mode.
Sure.
Oh yeah. So right from the start, when we designed this new approach to Lightbreak, because if you dig into Unity, you'll probably find our prototype. And the way that prototype worked was kind of inspired us to envision this new approach with a creative mode in mind. So we kind of, the whole thing that we built, we had this creative mode idea in mind that we provide people with a level editor. So a lot of the stuff that you see is actually customizable. That goes for the visuals and the audio and the background and the colors and the mesh. So basically everything, every element in the scene is customizable. So later on, when we creative mode is kind of our goal to release with the full game, by the way. But Our plan with the creative mode is basically an entire level editor where you can, number one, mess with the tones and add tracks, because each of these faces represent a track in the overall mix.
Okay.
So you can add up to 8 tracks to any of the to any of the polygons that are available, and you can choose from the game's sonic palette, and well, you can make your own music basically.
And the question,
the final animation that you see is also, you can exchange that for something else if you like. We use that to rickroll some people in our Kickstarter.
And a question from chat, I think it's a good one. Can you re-listen to these songs once you've played through the game or played through a puzzle?
That is a feature that we have in mind, just not in the demo version.
Yeah, I think I could. Yeah, the 5-note ones are definitely throwing me off. Again, I do not have an ear for music, as fans of mine are very well accustomed to at this point. I think the first and the last one are right.
The first and second one from the left should be switched.
Okay. There we go.
And the second one from the right should be in the middle.
At least this is set up that I can kind of brute force it when I'm completely stuck. I guess here's a question for you. In terms of difficulty progression, how are you kind of like deciding like what puzzles to introduce to the player in what order?
So initially, when you start a game, the instrument is in a certain position, and that is our that we set it that way so you can. The first thing that you see is usually the easiest one. But like I said, the design with the rotatable cube is that you can make your own difficulty basically.
By deciding which one you want to do first.
Yes.
Yeah, so the idea... Okay. So we tune it, and then we can just go, like, right into this.
Yeah, we kind of omitted the real tuning part because it just felt like a huge difficulty spike. But definitely, when you, if you actually look at our Kickstarter video, you'll see some glimpses of the real tuning, which each of these clicks that you hear are an actual tone.
Yeah, and that's always difficult to know just how, realistic or how complicated you want to make the game in terms of its design. I guess, now obviously again, like I said, I am not the best judge of musical-based puzzles, but in terms of like the overall difficulty that you're aiming for, I guess, what kind of audience are you aiming at in terms of, I guess, casual, medium, or expert level play?
So the difficulty of the game, if you look at this, there is no timers, there is no limit on how many times you can hear things. We're not imposing any stressing things into the mix. And the idea for Lightbreak was, by playing the game, you're making the music, and even if the notes that you are arranging are not correct, and even if the saws is not tuned correctly, the music that you were hearing is designed to be harmonious with all the other elements in the background. So our goal is to have people enter this creative flow state, and kind of like create as they play, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's nice that it's all very like soothing in terms of the noise. Like even when you fail, it doesn't sound like you're just like smashing something together as you're trying to play it.
Yeah.
In terms of where we're at demo wise, how many more puzzles are there?
This is the last one.
All right. I guess here's a question. Again, like my complete experience of music is showing. With like kind of like putting these various parts, like tuning them, is there like a real world or like logical analog, or is it just you just figuring out which spot to click first, kind of?
So on the later levels, this tuning mechanic will become an actual tuning.
Okay.
Which we understood that for the purposes of the demo is probably a huge difficulty spike.
Yeah.
Which is why we kind of cut it out.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming, as you were describing the creative mode earlier, that with the additional shapes you have planned, like you can play those as well.
Yes. So the blackness of this instrument is kind of a story element, by the way.
Okay.
But in the creative mode, you have options like how many tracks you want, and depending on, like, for example, you say, okay, I want to work with 4 tracks, and each of them will have 4 notes on them. The game will decide an appropriate polygon for that level, and you'll be able to change it. You'll be able to manipulate the colors, the backgrounds, the instruments, and of course the notes that.
Now, there's art. I'm seeing like kind of like slate art on the cube itself. Does that symbolize anything?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Like, there's kind of like you can see like, kind of like the art that's like reflected on the cube itself.
Yes.
Is that represent anything?
So, the cutscene that you're about to see is kind of like the pivotal point in the story.
Mm-hmm.
This is where our antagonist, which is the Sorcerer King, he casts a magical spell and takes the voice of our main character, so she cannot speak anymore. And what you don't see is that this spell also has an effect on her magical artifact instrument.
Okay.
And it kind of creates this barrier that she has to penetrate, basically, which is what we're doing by reordering her thoughts, basically.
Okay.
And that's why the black barrier goes away when you have all the correct notes.
I'm having a tough time like seeing where that orange line is going right now. It's like I'm trying to keep orient this cube. Okay, so it's going like that way. And yeah, I can already tell I definitely need some help with this one as well.
That's correct. That's correct. That's not. That's the last one. Okay. And now just switch the second to left one with the middle one.
Alright. I almost got it.
There you go.
I guess with the... since we're going to be watching the final kind of trailer, or final kind of cinematic, how did you settle on the actual aesthetic, like especially like these scenes right here?
So I'll just let the cutscene play.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, with the aesthetics of the game, we kind of wanted a reactive environment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you play the demo yourself, you're gonna notice a lot of subtle changes in the environment as you are interacting with the game. So we kind of wanted to have this kind of visualizers that react to what you're doing inside the game, and they are like sensitive to different frequencies and different instruments. And you're gonna see a lot of changes in the environment in the full version as you're solving each tracks of the puzzle. You're going to see the environment change and light up, and depending on the story that I was telling, you're going to see different elements of that story show up into the environment. So we kind of wanted to provide players with kind of a audio-visual treat, kind of. So that's basically our approach to creating the aesthetics of the game.
All right. And sorry, I had to fix the text, so I had to do a little bit of multitasking there. Yeah, and I think from playing it, like I said, just like a little bit, just like fumbling around with the cube. I think maybe like a little bit in terms of making that a little easier would help out. But yeah, I definitely did like.
I guess in the tutorial, what we didn't account for is that handling the cube itself is kind of a skill that you pick up. So we'll definitely have to include a section where you just have objectives that like bring this side up, maybe to have the players develop the skill to work with the cube, because we think that the system, the physics of the cube is actually very satisfying to play around with.
Yeah.
It's just that the players that we playtested didn't pick up the skill. So I guess it's incumbent upon us to change that in the full version.
Yeah,
but
and
if you do play the demo, if any of the viewers decide to go back and give it a shot, I recommend just playing around with the cube a little bit and trying to figure out how to control it, because it's actually a skill, and you can do you can kind of control it and command it where you want it to be. It's actually pretty cool. We worked a lot on the physics of the cube and trying to make it smooth and feel like it's something that is floating in front of you, and you kind of like reach out and grab it, and it responds with actual physics. So if you like grab the handle and drag it down, it will actually rotate as if it was actually floating in front of you.
Yeah. I guess like one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, like as you're describing the kind of puzzle flow, like each cube is essentially again like almost like a quote unquote like world, because each side that has pieces has to be tuned and adjusted. I guess, are there any thoughts or considerations about having like bonus challenges or additional things you can manipulate on the cube? You know, like not so much, you know, like you're required, but could maybe unlock something, or you know, like people love to like 3-star puzzles.
Yes. So this is unfortunately was one of the things that we had to cut from the game because of basically time constraints. But initially, what we had in mind was with every change that you do on the cube will react. So initially, you would start with something that looks messy, and maybe it's like it's missing some parts, and as you reorder it, it kind of starts recreating itself. and we would call the light phase in our design, and it would light up, and there are some sections in the story where Alba is exploring the jungle, and we're gonna have some cool Easter eggs there, by the way. But and the changes that happen to the instrument are actually related to that level and to the memory that Alba's describing. So in a jungle, you might when you complete a track, you might see a lot of vegetation growing on the cube. Um, in the mountains, you might see um, maybe a boulder that she saw and she liked, or maybe you'll see snow coming down. So there are these elements from her story that will show up as you're playing the game, so to kind of put you in that frame of mind, basically. So it's
Nice.
my goal with this design was that children see things with such wonder that we as adults have forgotten. So if you give a child the most mundane of things, it will look at it in like the most wondrous, like, holy crap, what is this? This is so cool, right? Like a big boulder in the eyes of a child is actually fascinating. So we kind of wanted to introduce people to that wonder again, and using music to reinforce that. It's like see the beauty in the mundane kind of thing, and we wanted to make it a soothing experience for people.
Yeah, and it certainly has that. Again, like the chat, I know Mojo was talking about kind of the smooth vibes of it. And it's always tricky when it comes to these kinds of games, especially when they're built on like a singular or a one major puzzle design to kind of keep the player hooked, keep them invested in it. I guess in terms of like the pacing and structure, you of course mentioned that the story kind of guides what puzzles and what you're doing as you go through it. And you've already mentioned that you had to kind of cut out some of like the bonus content. Do you see like, I guess you already mentioned the creative mode. Are there any other like additional mechanics or additional modes or features that you're hoping to put into Lightbreak?
So a lot of this kind of is dependent on funding, unfortunately,
Yeah.
because creating an art-centered game is actually very expensive.
Yes.
Um, so that's basically our main concern. That's why we're on Kickstarter. Is that everybody who's worked on this project worked on in their free time and worked with no expectation of like they worked on it because it's their baby, basically. And the artists that we're so lucky to have, they're also like putting great work and helped us really immensely with providing their art and their animation. But the most of the stuff that you see is kind of a it's kind of a Diet Coke. It's kind of a shadow of what we wanted to um, initially make. So there is a whole bunch of stuff that we had to leave on the cutting room floor because there was number one, the time constraints. We wanted to deliver the demo um, in time for the Kickstarter campaign, and there was a funding issue where in order to add that extra stuff that we wanted to, we needed to spend money that we didn't have.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think you. Is there a way to download the demo without needing an itch.io account, or do you need one?
I think you should be able to download it because it's free.
Let's see, download press kit. Yeah, always the trickiness of all these different things to download and such.
Probably they
Yeah.
should have an itch.io account. But it's just signing up. You don't have to like pay or give your credit card information or anything like that.
Yeah, I think you can sign up with your Google account, maybe.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think as we've been talking about again the idea of having like a musical base kind of puzzle design, and Lightbreak is definitely it's definitely an interesting title to play. Again, for the people watching, they know that I am typically really bad at these kinds of designs when it comes to musical manipulation, and we really don't see too many games. I guess we could like we were like on the spectrum. We could have something like very simple like Guitar Hero Rock Band that's just very much hit a note in the same place and Simon Says It. We could have on the other end something like Rocksmith, which just here play this exactly how it would in real life. But it's hard to sometimes to find stuff in the middle ground, and it seems like that's kind of where Lightbreak is trying to aim up.
That's exactly correct. So, if you, some of the stuff that we cut out was from the prototype was that you would absolutely had to make this correct tone, and it would like give you a bit like wrong. You got to do it correctly, and we decided to cut that because we wanted this experience to be kind of free flowing. And one of the ideas that we had was maybe on some levels you don't really have to get it completely correct. Maybe there is not one answer to this because there's not one correct, like art is not math.
Yeah.
Where there is just one correct answer. So that is one other feature that we were thinking about as we were making this new version.
Hey Shark, you just missed the playthrough and me failing to get good at music playing. So, to kind of turn things over to the Kickstarter for a few minutes. Again, there'll be links to them in the description, and I put links to them in the chat as well. Any interesting or special rewards you have planned for people who donate for it?
Okay, so oh man, don't get me started. So we actually did a lot of iteration for our music. So we do have a backer exclusive soundtrack with all of those different iterations of the music, and you can getting that you will kind of see how the music evolved as the development kind of progressed through this 8 months. That's one of our I think most cool rewards. And for those of you who like physical rewards, the model of the Saz, the one that you see Alva's holding in her hand, that's actually something that we 3D printed, and that's one of the rewards where you get a 3D printed model of that as a collectible item. We also have printed posters, and our artists are actually we have a live stream on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, that our artists will create an art piece live, and that art piece will be sent and printed and sent for those who chose it as their reward in the Kickstarter.
Okay. And I'm scanning it as you're talking as well. And I'm assuming you're going to have the soundtrack as a standalone or a separate purchase too?
We haven't made a decision on that yet.
Okay.
But for now, we're trying to keep the backer exclusive soundtrack exclusive to backers.
Okay. Alright. I guess for the chat, if you have any questions for the team, please get them in, and we'll probably wrap things up in like the next few minutes or so. And I guess, like we've said, like the Kickstarter is just about 3 days away from wrapping up, and I guess, how long did you guys spend, I guess, coming up with the Kickstarter, like planning it out and things along those lines?
This whole thing kind of, we spent the last 6 months on planning out the Kickstarter, actually.
And that's what I hear from a lot of developers these days, that you really do need to spend a few months just to get that Kickstarter.
It's
all
actually
ready.
a lot of people think that you just put your game on Kickstarter and see you in a month and you come back with a whole bunch of funds, but it's actually more work than reaching out to publishers. And but the reason why we chose Kickstarter was we actually had some publishers interested in the game, and they wanted to come in and make this game into a hyper casual, like those ad infested microtransaction games on mobile. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So we kind of had like two publishers who were contacted us like, do you guys want to collaborate? And they didn't want to give us the creative freedom to make the game we wanted. So that's why we kind of aimed for Kickstarter.
Mojo wants to know in chat, is the team all friends, like growing up friends?
Strangely, no, actually, we are friends, but we met on Global Game Jam.
What was the kind of theme for the Global Game Jam that inspired Lightbreak?
The theme was repair.
Okay.
So our prototype was kind of a physics-based puzzle where you would hear a sequence of tones, and then it would break, and you would have to put it back together. So that was, and then like when the music broke, it would like shatter into different pieces, and you would have to figure out which pieces were the correct ones.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I always tell developers when they come on, I do wish everyone the best of luck with the Kickstarter. And I hate to say this because it always seems like a jinx, but if it doesn't unfortunately go through, do you have any backup plans for continuing development of Lightbreak?
From our experience, I've had one other Kickstarter that failed, so I learned a lot of lessons from that Kickstarter, and one of those is Kickstarter is largely like there's a huge aspect of your presentation and what you make, but also there's an element of luck involved. Currently there are some really, really nice projects that are on Kickstarter, and people just have to choose. And because our game is so unique, when somebody says, oh yeah, this game is a Metroidvania, people immediately understand what that game is. And they're kind of more inclined to go and support what they know, as opposed to like put in the effort to understand what this game is and what our presentations is about. And that's kind of a little bit incumbent on us to present the game better. But from all the backers that we have currently, we have gotten this feedback. Your presentation is actually really nice. You just got unlucky because there are these very good games right now on Kickstarter that people just have to choose.
Yep, and we've been having developer chats, and we do a lot of game dev stuff here on the channel where we talk about that, and it is definitely a lot trickier these days in terms of getting that Kickstarter to work, especially if you're coming at it without having like a background, like we see from kind of like the tabletop side, with stuff like Pearson Games and some of like the bigger name ones who get like this track record of success, and then it just keeps going and going.
Yeah, so it's tough. People think that Kickstarter is easy, but it really isn't. Haven't had a good night's sleep for a month.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
But I suppose to answer your previous question, we do have plans for basically all eventualities. So, but our current goal is to deliver this campaign and gather as much support as possible, because if we do decide to relaunch on some later date, we will have this base to go from. So hopefully we'll make it this time, but if that doesn't happen, we're hoping next time we'll make it in just one day.
And I think I kind of know the answer to this, but with this game being started from the Global Game Jam, did the team work on any other projects together, or work in some capacity previously, or did this all come about from the Game Jam?
So personally, I've had experience making and shipping games, but basically all other team members, Lightbreak is their first or second game. But previously, before Lightbreak, our team didn't make a game. So this is our basically debut title, kind of.
Okay. And for the chat watching, or for the people watching this live recorded, in terms of, I guess, estimated time to finish the game, if you're able to make the Kickstarter or keep going, I see on the Kickstarter page you have it set for August of 2021. So is that like around the time you're hoping to finish up development?
So that is just an estimation. Realistically, there are a lot of things that could happen that might delay the game, but that's our goal. So we hope to be able to finish it sometime in the spring, and spend the last 3-4 months polishing and doing marketing for the game. And some of the stuff that you may notice from the demo is that we spend a lot of time just polishing, and a lot of these Kickstarter demos that you play, sometimes people sometimes people encounter some like weird ass bugs that we kind of wanted to minimize, but that happens. It's a factor that you cannot like set it to 0, but we tried to minimize as much bugs as possible. And we did do some revisions while the Kickstarter was live. So the tutorial that you played was actually our second version of the tutorial, where we did a lot of more. We wanted to be a lot more clear with how the game's mechanics works, and that was the result of the feedback that we got from our backers and from our mentor, by the way, which I haven't mentioned, Tim Ryan of he worked on Harmonix's Frequency for PS2. So we got a lot of feedback from him, and a lot of feedback from our backers. So that's we're constantly working and trying to like put out the best version of the game online, which is why it's build 5 and not build 1.
Yeah, and again, like for all the developers watching, as they of course know just how hard and yet how vital a good tutorial and good onboarding is, especially if you're going to Kickstarter, when you have to show people, we're not just messing around throwing stuff against the wall. Like, we have a coherent game here. Let's see. I think I am just about all questions. Is there anything else regarding Lightbreak, whether development, art, music, or the Kickstarter itself, that we didn't touch on that anyone on the team would like to comment on?
Anybody? I don't want to. I want to 100% talk myself. Give some time to other people to talk on the team.
I just want to say that all the feedback that we get from you guys is really important for us. And we know what's going on in the game, but we are starting to see what other people see, and I think that's a good thing.
All right. Well, I think with that, we'll wrap things up here. So, I would like to thank everybody on the team for hanging out with me this Monday evening. Again, the Kickstarter has about 3 days left. This video or this archive will be going up pretty much like the second it's done encoding. So be sure to check out the Kickstarter. There'll be links to it as well as to the demo down below. And again, best of luck with the home stretch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Not a
Thanks,
problem.
everybody.
Thank you so much for allowing us on.
Yeah, not a problem. And as always, if you are a developer watching this or would like me to take a look at your game or come on for a live or recorded cast discussion, please get in touch. You can follow me on Twitter at GWBicer. We have our Discord and Patreon link down below. For those of you watching this live, we're going to take about a 10-15 minute break and we'll be back for our regular game streaming. And for those of you watching this recorded, thank you so much. And come back for our daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.